as well. But I want you to study Ecclesiastes with me. It's an interesting book. It's probably, as I said yesterday, you can look at it as one of the saddest books in the Bible. There's another book that is sadder. That's the book of Lamentations, which means to weep. But in the book of Ecclesiastes, the theme of the book is vanity of vanities. All is vanity, says the preacher, or everything is empty. Some translation says everything is useless. What a depressing way to look at life. What a picture of life, that no matter what I did, and I did everything. I was the preacher. I was wealthy. This is the king. It's a reference to Solomon. I tried everything. I had enough money to do everything I wanted to do. And when it was all over, I found out it was empty. It was worthless. It was a waste of time. What a sad conclusion to looking at life. But there's a purpose for this book being in the Bible. And I want to kind of dive into it of why it's such an important book. All of Scripture is given by inspiration of God. So by inspiration, God had the preacher to write these words. And it's very important that we understand them, because when you look at the book, you find it's almost as if a person is asking all of these questions to have a philosophy of life. You know, there are many philosophies in the world. And ever since the beginning of time, you've had people that will consider themselves to be philosophers, whether it's the Greek philosophers, Plato, Aristotle, whether it's the Oriental or Eastern philosophers. As a matter of fact, every culture has philosophers, people that will try to give you a reason why you are living, to try to make some sense of life. And often when you're young, you begin to ask questions. What is the purpose of life? Why am I here? Where did I come from? What is the meaning of life? And all of us eventually have questions concerning life, and we try to get answers. And of course, there's some philosophies that come up with some unbelievable conclusions. But in the book of Ecclesiastes, he concludes in the last chapter. What is the conclusion of the matter? Fear God, keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. That's the conclusion. After all of the questions and statements in all the chapters of Ecclesiastes, all the frustration, all the vanity, all the emptiness, the conclusion was, fear God, keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. And remember, in the Hebrew, the terms duty, the whole duty is not in the original language. It was put there by the translators. The Young's literal translation says, for this is the whole of man. Or one way you can look at it is, this is what makes you whole. If you want to be a whole person, then you should fear God and keep his commandments. But when you read, for instance, in the first chapter of Ecclesiastes, it asks the question, it says, what benefit is there in all the labor that man does under the sun? All the work, all the labor, all the energy, all the effort. What benefit is it? And then he concludes by saying, vanity of vanity. It's all empty. It's all useless. And then he says, the one generation comes, another generation goes, but the earth abides forever. In other words, people come, they live, they die. Another group comes, lives and dies, works. Another generation comes, lives and dies, works. Another generation comes, lives and dies, works. And he basically, what's the meaning of this? It's your life is temporary. You're going to die one day, and another generation is going to come after you, and they're going to have the same questions. They're going to have the same philosophies. They're going to deal with the same vanity and vexation of life. So what use is it? He says the rivers run in a circuit. They go into the sea. They return again. It's just as in the world they would say, the Lion King, the circle of life. It just continues round and round and round, from year to year to year, from generation to generation to generation. And what's the meaning of all of this? And so as you look at this book, then he even makes some conclusions that is nothing better than that you should eat and drink and enjoy the good of your labor. That's one of the conclusions, that if you're working, enjoy, eat and drink. But then he even says that your appetite is never satisfied. You eat one day, you drink one day, you wake up the next day hungry again. You do it again. You eat every day. You drink every day, but your appetite is never satisfied. And then he says that, I did everything. I saw everything, yet my eyes are never satisfied. My ears are never satisfied with what I hear. And so he concludes with, it's all vain. It's all useless. And so if you're not careful, you can look at this book and say that life is useless. But remember that the preacher is looking at it from a human perspective. It's life under the sun. And I mentioned this yesterday, that if you don't have a higher purpose for living beyond just being on the earth, you're going to end up being empty. If you don't have a higher purpose, a heavenly calling, it's important to have a heavenly calling, a heavenly vision. Paul said, I was not disobedient to the heavenly vision. You have to have a higher purpose of living if you're going to be satisfied in life. If you're just on the earth, just eating, breathing, sleeping, and then dying, then life will be meaningless. And a lot of people live this way. They live from week to week, month to month, year to year, with no heavenly purpose. They have no heavenly vision. They have no call of God. But as believers, we do. Thank God, as believers, you have a purpose. You have an individual calling. You have an individual purpose. God has called you to do something. God has given you gifts. You recognize there is something after death called eternity. And so you do have a higher purpose and a higher calling. And when you give yourself to that, whether it's preaching, teaching, marketplace, advancing the kingdom, whatever it is, you'll find that only then life makes sense. Other than that, it's empty, it's vain, it's useless. But let me give you what I believe is some insight in the book of Ecclesiastes. Because when you read the book, it's as if the preacher is asking all of these questions. What is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of living? What value do you get out of working? If you get rich, you may leave everything you have to a fool. So what's the benefit of that? So he asked all of these questions. And what I thought about was this. I didn't think about this until today before I came on the broadcast. That many of the questions that people have in life have already been asked by previous generations. Remember, he says there's nothing new under the sun. Almost every question that you come up with in life. What is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of life? Why am I here? What am I to do? Why do we die? What comes after death? What happened? Who created me? Every question that you have, that you've ever asked God or asked an individual, that question has already been asked by someone before you. Think of this, in thousands of years of man being on the earth and generation after generation, your questions are not new. Why is there suffering? Why is there pain? Why do good people die early? And it looks like some wicked people live a long life. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why does it look like the wicked prosper? That's not a new question. That has been asked by many before you. And when you read the book of Ecclesiastes, most of these questions are asked. Let me say it this way. It saves you the time of trying to struggle in life, trying to waste all of your years trying to figure out life, trying to study all these philosophies, and people go into all kinds of Eastern philosophies and ancient philosophies and even anti-Christian philosophies. They get all confused and come up with all kind of idiotic conclusions. Well, God really is saving you a lot of time, a lot of energy by giving you this book. when you read this book, it concludes with the whole purpose of your being on the earth is to fear God and to keep his commandments. Now, you may not believe in that, but it'll save you a lot of confusion. That's your purpose. God created you for his purpose. God created you to serve him. God created you to enjoy life. And only in serving him will you get satisfaction. You have a purpose. God made you for a reason. Just like when they made cars, or when they make cars, that car doesn't ask you its purpose. That car is for the purpose of you getting from one place to another. You put the key in the ignition, you put it in drive, and you drive. That car knows its purpose. It doesn't it doesn't say, well, I'm not gonna ride today until you tell me what I'm here for. Everything created knows its purpose. You build a house. The house knows its purpose. It's for you to live in. You get a kitchen. The kitchen has a purpose for you to cook in. A dining room, a dining table has a purpose. These mobile devices we're using, they have a purpose for you to communicate, call people, as in case I'm doing lives. Everything has a purpose. Well, you have a purpose too. You were created for God's purpose. God created you for a purpose, to live on the earth, to maintain the earth, to have dominion on the earth, to praise him, to worship him, to give him pleasure. And if you don't understand that, if you don't know that your whole duty or your whole purpose is to fear God and keep his commandments, very simple, really. Doesn't make life complex. My purpose is to fear God and keep his commandments. That's the conclusion of the book of Ecclesiastes. Now, you may argue that, say, no, that's just, that it's got to be more than that. It's not. Stop making life hard. Stop making it more difficult. Stop being so philosophical and intellectual that you end up confused and you end up thinking foolishly. The person who wrote Ecclesiastes has already asked all the questions. They've already looked at everything. They've done everything. Think of this. Let me give you this example. In ministry, I've been in ministry for over 40 years. This will be my 43rd year of ministry. Thanks be unto God. By the grace of God, I do have some longevity in ministry. And I have seen, hopefully I'm not having a problem with my connection here on the social media platform. We'll see. I'll try to get this back up if I can. Hold on, people. I'm trying my best. Okay, let's see. Okay, here we are. Okay, I'm back on. In ministry, let me give you an example. I've seen ministers who are very ambitious. And it's happening a lot in today's society, especially in church. There are many people, not all, but many people that want big platforms. They want to be famous. They want to have mega ministries. They want to be known. They want to be influencers. I'm not against God making you an influencer. I believe you were born for influencers. But I've seen preachers and ministers that are overly ambitious. They'll almost do anything. They'll compromise. They'll maneuver to try to get on the platform. And then when they get it, they find out it doesn't satisfy them. That's exactly what the preacher says. The preacher says, I did everything. I had parties. I had wealth. I built houses. I did everything I wanted to do. And when it was all over, it was vain. It was empty. So what is God saying? God is saying, I'm trying to save you some trouble. If all you do is look for riches, fame, power, promotion, when you get it, it's not going to satisfy you. It's going to be empty. You can spend your whole life trying to get ahead. And again, I'm not against success or prosperity. You can spend your whole life trying to get on the platform, trying to have the biggest ministry, rub shoulders with the biggest people. And then when you get it, you're going to find out it's empty. It's vain. So really, the book is saving you from a lot of wasted time and wasted effort that you put into trying to get something, whether it's cars, houses, clothing, jewelry, fame, promotion, whatever it is. He says it's vain. It's empty. Don't love these things. Don't go. I'm saving you some trouble. I've already done it for you. I've already answered this question. No, fear God, keep his commandments. This is the duty of man. And when you do that, you'll find happiness. That's wisdom. Happy is the man that finds wisdom. You'll find peace. You'll find joy. You'll have a purpose. You'll have something greater. As a matter of fact, people that walk in God's purpose, even though they may not be famous or well known, they're happier than people who are famous and well known but are not walking in purpose. Because it's not how much you have. What shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his soul? What shall a man give in exchange for his soul? So this book really is a book that helps us to answer all the questions we may ever have. Someone has done it for you. The preacher, Solomon, has done this for you so that you'll not waste your time trying to figure life out and all your energy trying to figure life out and then end up in some off religion, some off philosophy, demonized, confused, and not know the conclusion, which is, after all of what he did in the book of Ecclesiastes, he concluded, fear God, keep his commandments. This is the whole duty of man. That's it. Fear God, keep his commandments. That's your duty. That's what makes you whole. This is the whole purpose of man being on the earth. Very simple, very easy. It can save you a lot of problems. And so I love this book because it can be a depressing book if you look at it the wrong way. But if you look at it as a wisdom book, it's giving you answers to all the questions you may have ever had. You can really save yourself a lot of problems and enjoy life and be happy and enjoy serving God and living for God. That's what